Welcome to Personal Injury Marketing Minute.
Welcome to the Personal Injury Marketing Minute, where we quickly cover the hot topics in the legal marketing world. I'm your host, Lindsay Busfield, and I'm the Vice President and Partner at Optimize My Firm. Today, I'm joined by Perdue of Simon Perdue. After starting his career defending large corporations, Ryan shifted his practice to focus exclusively on catastrophic injury and wrongful death cases involving trucking companies, oil field operators, and other large defendants. Today, we're talking about the risk and reward of niching down into catastrophic cases and what firm owners should really think about before committing to that kind of practice. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ryan.
Thanks, Lindsay. Good to see you.
You as well. Well, you started your career out on the defense side, as many personal injury lawyers did, before moving into catastrophic injury work. What led you to make that shift in your focus?
Sure. So my partner, Joel Simon, and I both, as you said, got our start working for defense firms, defending large oil and gas companies. And that was all that we did for about the first 15 years or so of our career. We represented some of the largest oil companies in the world in various kinds of personal injury cases that they had, cases such as plant explosions or really catastrophic fires or deaths or various things that would occur in the course of their business. And that was kind of all that we knew. And as part of that work, most of the time, we would typically have a very small number of cases that we would handle at any one time. Typically, it would be strange for us to have more than 3 or 4 cases on our docket at any given moment because these were such big cases that involved multiple plaintiffs and they took several years to conclude. And so it was always the case that we just had a very small number of kind of very large cases that we were working on. And so when we made the shift to representing plaintiffs, that was kind of just second nature to us. And it was really all that we knew to focus on sort of these bigger catastrophic injury cases that involved either oil field work or refinery work. That was sort of our niche, right? When we got into representing plaintiffs and moving away from the defense side. So it was kind of a natural transition for us to focus our plaintiff side work in representing, folks. It was just sort of natural for us to make that transition because that was really all that we knew.
That makes a lot of sense. And I mean, it's not necessarily that these cases are bigger or more important than the car accident cases or the dog bite cases, because clearly every case is going to be important to the client and to the attorney representing them. But you took that expertise that you had and that experience that you had and it just happened to coincide with having these catastrophic injury cases. And as you made that transition, how helpful was it that you had leaned on the defense side, bringing that experience over to serving clients on the plaintiff side?
It was immensely helpful for many reasons, the most of which is having that experience of representing defendants in these sorts of big catastrophic injury cases. We sort of knew how defendants and companies and insurance companies will defend cases. And we sort of got an inside look for many, many years as to how that works. And so we kind of already knew the playbook when we switched sides and started representing plaintiffs. And I think that is a huge advantage that we have in what we do now in representing plaintiffs in these sorts of catastrophic injury cases. We know sort of all the tricks that defendants and defense attorneys like to employ. And we kind of know our way around those strategies. So having that background, having that experience was hugely helpful. And we believe that is one of the things that really sets our firm apart.
Absolutely. And especially when you know how the process works. And it's, it's one thing to know like the tricks of the trade with knowing how insurance companies are going to either, lowball or slow play a client, but to actually have a deep understanding of how these oil companies work and how the business itself works and how this process works together on one side against the client. And now being able to flip the script and know what documents to look for, know what their process is, and to really know what questions to ask and of whom, I'm sure makes a huge difference when you are prepping these cases.
Yeah, that's right, Lindsay. It is very critical for any lawyer in any case that they are working on to have, or at least to develop over the course of handling the case, to gain an intricate knowledge of the subject matter that the case involves, right? And so you hit it on the head, having that sort of insider knowledge about operations and procedures and incident investigation processes. Having that background knowledge is just been hugely helpful to us as we represent plaintiffs in these same sorts of cases.
Of course, knowing where the bodies are buried, so to speak. And
That's right.
it's one thing to have this knowledge, but it's another thing when you are running a practice that now caters to victims of accidents that have happened in these different locations and facilities and just types of injuries. But it's important to be able to market yourself and your firm as having this injury experience and having this personal injury case type experience. But this type of marketing, it must lend itself to some different rules, not necessarily like rules, but to some different strategies than a typical personal injury law firm would. Because instead of targeting, the wide net of dog bites and car accidents, motorcycle accidents, you're now really hyper focused on these large catastrophic injury cases. How would you say that that shifts your marketing strategy along the way?
Well, that's a good question, Lindsay. And you're exactly right. For us, niching down is not just a case strategy, it's also a marketing strategy. And many lawyers out there think that more leads equates to more revenue. But the way that we look at it is fewer, better cases that are intentionally selected can create a stronger brand and better long-term growth. And so we are kind of the anti-volume based PI shop. And for us, niching down is not about turning cases away. It's about building identity. And catastrophic injury and oil field cases require a different level of investigation on the front end. They require more capital. They require more trial readiness and preparedness. And so by being committed to that space, our marketing is clearer. Our intake of cases is a lot sharper. And that, we believe, leads to us having a stronger reputation.
Absolutely. And being able to stand out as an industry leader in this particular case type is going to position you really well down the road, not only to serve your clients who really need to lean on somebody who has experience with these types of cases, but I'm sure partnering with other law firms who might need a referral partner to hand these cases off to if this is outside of their wheelhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. When you focus on these catastrophic and oil field injury cases, your messaging gets a lot sharper, your content gets more specific. And as you said, your referral sources know exactly when to call you. And so you become not just a personal injury lawyer, you're the lawyer for these catastrophic injury cases in high risk industries.
Right. Especially, it sounds like these are more litigation heavy as opposed to going to settlements. What would you say is the breakdown of settling versus going to trial?
Most cases still settle. Um, it's hard to put a percentage on it, but it's, probably close to 95% of our cases do wind up settling. I think for us, the difference is when the case settles. And when we get a new case in the door, whether it's through our marketing efforts or through our referral sources, we very rarely will attempt to settle that case pre-suit, right? Because we typically, these are more serious cases involving more significant injuries. And we just know from experience that trying to settle those cases early before you filed suit, it just doesn't work out. And you're not going to get the same value that you would get if you were to actually go through the exercise and the process of filing the lawsuit, working the case up, and projecting that you are going to take the case to trial if the defendants don't pay fair value. So for us, when we take cases, new cases, we kind of automatically take it with the mindset that we are going to file suit. We are going to get our investigators on the case. We are going to hire experts who are going to go do an inspection of the site or the piece of equipment. And we are going to aggressively work it up and get the case in a position that we can take it to trial if we have to. And then, like I said, most of the time cases do settle before trial, but not always. And we try, my partner Joel and I try a lot of cases, and that's a really fun part of our job.
I'm sure it is. And I'm sure that having that background that you guys do and being connected on both sides of the industry gives you the reputation that people that you are going up against know how hard you're going to work, and they know the experience that you're bringing to this, and they know that you know what to look for. So they might be a little more hesitant to actually go to trial because of your strong uh, bench of experience that's behind you, knowing that you're going to be able to figure out the right outcome for these cases.
That's so true, Lindsay. We've come across so many plaintiff lawyers in our careers that they seem like, even though they call themselves trial lawyers, they're terrified to actually step into a courtroom and put a case on, put a trial on in front of a jury. And so, if you're going to talk the talk, you kind of have to walk the walk. And when you are confident enough in yourself, right, and in your case to actually take it all of the way, and if you consistently prepare those cases at a high level, then it leads to your reputation compounding with both other lawyers, defense counsel, insurance companies, judges. It's a boon that ultimately benefits your
It
client.
just gets
Right?
better and better over time.
That's right.
And as a victim of a catastrophic injury case, or a family who is dealing with the loss of a loved one that might have passed from something terrible happening, you want to have the lawyer that the other side is afraid of, that the other side really doesn't want to see in court. So I think that does nothing but help serve you well, serve your business well, serve your clients well. And so let's talk about some of the marketing that you guys do, because this is a marketing podcast, and there are a lot of law firms out there who want to be known as the big guy that everybody is afraid of. So what are you doing on your side to connect with clients, let them know that you really are this industry leader, that you have the knowledge and experience that you do? What have you seen as being the best marketing practices to get you plugged in?
Yeah, I think that your marketing has to become very strategic and very narrowly tailored, right? And so when you focus on these sorts of catastrophic injury cases, wrongful death cases, it really does kind of completely change your marketing message. When you market to everyone, your messaging becomes very generic, right? Like, hurt in a car wreck, call us. But when you're speaking directly to an injured oil field worker or a family who's lost someone, then that the tone really shifts, and it's got to become more specific. It's got to become more human and more serious. And that specificity builds trust with your clients and with their families. And ultimately, that trust converts better than volume in terms of value and return on your marketing investment.
It does, and that has to be there. And regardless of whatever type of practice you have, meeting your prospective clients with empathy and building that know, like, and trust virtues. That is going to help get the clients in the door, but is also going to lead for a much smoother relationship with the client going forward, because they're not going to be second guessing everything that you have to say, because you are the person that they have put their trust in and they know that you know what you're talking about. So let's talk a little bit on a more general term. There are a lot of attorneys out there who really would like to target some of these larger cases. They want to break free of being the jack of all personal injury trades and really focus a niche down on these larger cases, have fewer cases at a higher value. What would you recommend to them as they're trying to either figure out a niche or come into these catastrophic injury niches?
Sure. Here's what I would say. I would say don't be afraid of higher case acquisition costs, right? High severity injury cases, the marketing for that is just different. And you don't need to have 200 cases a month. You really just need the right one or two. And so, for example, I think the national average for cost per lead, for a high volume plaintiff firm it's around $400 per lead. Obviously, there's a lot of variability in that number depending on your, the location of the market and what kind of marketing you're doing. But I think relatively speaking, that's sort of a recognized average. And so if you're one of those shops, and just to make the math easy, let's say you're spending $10,000 a month on marketing, right? You may be getting around 25 high quality leads for every $10,000 that's spent, if you assume a $400 per lead average. With our firm, the way that we do it is that if we spend $10,000 per month, we may get, instead of 25 good leads, we may only get 3 or 4, right? Which means that our cost per lead is closer to around $2,500 per, $10,000 spent. And, from those 3 to 4 leads that we get, we may only decide to sign up 1 or 2 cases every 2 to 3 months. And that can be very scary, right? For a lot of firms out there who are used to signing up, dozens of cases each month. But the reason why it works for us is, as we've discussed, these cases are much higher value than a car wreck case that involves a $25,000 auto policy, right? And so these catastrophic injury, wrongful death, oil field cases, they just involve much more significant injuries, and we typically see situations where the insurance policies at play are just on a much higher level. And so what I would say is, don't be afraid of focusing on better, more significant cases, just because you'll have a higher acquisition cost, right? It really is, the economics are scaled differently. But at the end of the day, if you just sign up 1 case per year that's worth $1 million, then you will have wholly eclipsed your marketing budget for the year, right? And so it can be a scary process, but it just, people that want to get into this kind of work and market for these kinds of cases should understand that the end result will make it all worth it.
It does. And I think that one aspect of this to not be overlooked is the experience that you have. And there are so many different types of injuries out there, and especially, different types of catastrophic injuries out there. You have experience coming from the oil field industry, knowing where to look, how that process works. We've worked with clients who only work with bicycle accidents because he is really involved in the bicycle accident community. There are, attorneys that will only take on motorcycle accidents and really specialize in that motorcycle accident niche. So, coming to these different practices and case types with that industry knowledge, or just having firsthand knowledge, can also put you leaps and bounds ahead of the competition, because you have that authenticity and you have that experience to lean on as you develop these cases. So I think that, that's also an important part of what you've done as well.
For sure. It can't be overlooked, that experience. But what I would say is that handling a significant injury case, whether it's related to an oil field or whether it's a trucking accident or whatever the case may be, right? There are similar principles, right, at play in every single major injury case, and all of them require sort of intense focus and preparation on the front end, right, to build your case early, hire the right experts, do your investigations, get the documents that you need to get, do the interviews you need to do, get the depositions that you need to get. And you have to be committed to that early on in the case, regardless of what kind of case it is.
Right. Well, and I guess the last question that I'll have for you today is what would you say to the attorneys who are afraid of saying no to cases that are coming through the door if they are really truly wanting to focus on catastrophic injury cases?
What I would say is that I agree that I think there's lots of lawyers out there that kind of worry if I were to niche down, I might lose business. But the way that we look at it is that we don't lose business, we lose distraction, right? And we are focused on building a premium brand that truly focuses on the biggest cases out there. And you can't build a premium brand while taking everything that walks through the door. And so while I get that there are many lawyers out there may have trouble saying no, it is learning how to say no and to say yes to the right cases is a really important part of building that premium brand.
Right. Well, that wraps up today's episode of the Personal Injury Marketing Minute. If you want to learn more about Simon Perdue, you can find them online at simonperdulaw.com. And if you're a personal injury firm thinking about growing, positioning, and where your practice is really headed, you can reach out to me at optimizemyfirm.com. Thank you so much for listening, and be sure to like, subscribe, and share the show with everyone who might need to hear it. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I really enjoyed having you here.
Thank you, Lindsay. It's been fun.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.